Hey, Shalom. Kal Halalima Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Hawashai, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Hawashai, Brakti Yahweh, Brakti Hawashai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, elder bishops of Great Millstone that rule well, and Shalom to the prophets of that body, and Shalom to the 144,001 third. May peace and blessings and the spirit of endurance be upon you and your households. Now, I've got this video up on the screen, as you can see what the title states. Now, I'm not pointing any particular fingers, but I'm just stating one fact regarding the Israelite foreigners, just like myself. Now, being an Israelite foreigner, when I used to watch Zabak, HOI, rebuke the heathen nations and things like that, and when he would talk about the East Indians and things like that, I always knew deep down that I was not an East Indian. All right. In the UK, all Israelites, right, especially Israelite foreigners like myself, especially from India, we see people from America and other parts of the world don't understand that people from India are not all the same people. All right. The same way in Italy, everybody's not the same people. Like your northern Italy, which is primarily, I believe, Edomites, and they're more blonde-haired and blue-eyed. But there's Jake over there too. But Jake is everywhere. You can't just go by the outside appearance. Okay, you can't just go by the outside appearance. If that was the case, right? If that was the case, these people, if let's say, Lord forbid, if we were in this hell for, I don't even want to say it out of my mouth, but this is a hypothetical. Okay, now if we were in this hell, in this queendom for another 20 years, Lord forbid, Yahweh Bashem Yahshai forbid, right? And let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you had Drake's son or Blake Griffin's son. Now, Google them yourself, right? Drake's daddy, right? Drake's father, a Haitian, right? Kind of looks like a Michael Jordan, a heavier version, bald head and all that, I believe, from one of the pictures I've seen. Drake's mother, she could be Jake too, but she looks like a so-called white woman, an Edomite woman. I believe she's Amalek, all right? Drake is born. Drake looks like he's a Southern Kingdom, a Levite by blood, but he would call himself a Haitian or a so-called black man. But Drake could pass for an Ephraimite also, because he's got that kind of look. Drake has a son. Drake's son, right, grows up, he's border, he could pass for a white guy, so-called white person. Okay, if this hell was to go on longer. And if he came to one of these camps, there were, some brothers would turn him away, calling him a heathen, all right, and leading the flock astray. But then again, I can understand that some Jakes were chosen to be caught up in traps and snares, okay, because they're not part of the elect. But what I am saying is, I'm part of the hopeful elect, Lord willing. I'm an Israelite foreigner, right? And if certain camps went by the doctrine that they were taught in the 90s, all right, I'm saying this out of all pure respect. I'm just saying, okay, because we learned from our elders and men of Great Millstone. And by the way, I don't watch other camps. I saw the title, right? I only focus on Great Millstone because that's the truth in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahshai. I saw the title and I thought, and I looked at the guy. I said, okay, kind of like curlyish hair, kind of like gets a tan. More than likely Southern Italian, because most Italians, especially in America, for the most part, are from, they were the peasants, the Southern Italians. And we know Southern Italy was conquered by the Moors, okay? Because Esau Edom likes to put their truth in movies, like the movie True Romance, okay? Hence the reason why a lot of Italians, even Eddie Murphy brought out, they act like Jakes, because they are Israelites. There's a certain element of coolness to Italians, man. When I was a youngster, people wanna, even though it's wickedness, okay, I'm talking about worldly shit right now. People want to mimic what is cool. That's why you got a lot of people in the world want to be like cholos. They want to act Mexican, drive lowriders, wear the bandanas and all that kind of thing. Dress like a pachuco, like the cholo type Jakes from the 40s and 50s with the zoot suits and all that. or people want to dress like Jake from from Harlem with the zoot suits and all that. Want to have fades and braids, and people want to be like the so-called black man, the Hispanic man. Who else they want to be like? The Italian man. Okay, all right. And if you watch certain Italian gangster movies, right, you gotta have a spiritual eye, right? Romans 8:16, the spirit beareth witness. You can tell a lot of these Italians are Jake. You can tell through the spirit, okay? But all this thing where only Israel is only just concentrated in America and Latin America is a crazy thought, all right? Because there's so many scriptures pointing out the fact that the Israelites are scattered everywhere to the four corners of the earth, okay? There's scriptures letting you know that. What about the mixed multitude? All right, the mixed multitude. They're gonna look like everybody from the four corners of the earth, but their line goes back from on their father's side to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, I mean, King David's grandmother was a Moabite, a so-called Chinese person, and if King David, right, came out looking more like the maternal side, more so-called Oriental, all right, okay, uh, Jake's with this kind of mindset would turn someone like King David away, right? Okay, and I'm trying to be, I'm just saying this respectfully, of course, because at the end of the day, these are priests. They're doing the work, but I'm just touching on the fact that there are Israelites that don't look like so-called black people, that don't have so-called Hispanic names or Spanish type names or Latino names. Okay, the 12 tribe chart is an indication, okay, right, of where the bulk of the Israelites are. All right, and also that's the Italian part taken care of. I'm an Israelite foreigner, right? If I was listening to Zabak, right, and the Spirit wasn't guiding me, I would have thought, oh, he's saying, oh, the East Indians can't be saved and all that, which they can't. Those dot heads cannot be saved. The real Elamites, that is. But Israel is, Jacob is over there. Were we in slavery in Persia? Were we not? Did we live over there? Aren't so-called black men marrying Indian girls today? Persian women today? Pakistani women today? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. All right? And you got plenty of reggae artists and rap artists that have Indian fathers. Their fathers look Indian or are classified as Indian, right? But they they married so-called black women, but their fathers are Israelites. You got like the likes of, is it Supercat? I think it's Supercat. Nicki Minaj, okay, like the same surname as that. What's that Muslim actor, man? Something Minhaj, whatever his name is. But nevertheless, there's plenty out there. Ashley Banks. Ashley Banks is another one from Fresh Prince. You saw the one with the long hair, right? From Fresh Prince, Ashley Banks. Tatiana Ali, that's another one. All right. So sometimes, you'll get born with the original look. If Tatiana Ali came more looking like, one of her paternal grandmothers, let's just say she came out looking really Indian-y, right? You would think, oh man, she doesn't even look so-called black, but yet she acts so-called black. You would call her an East Indian or an Elamite, I'm using these worldly terms, acting so-called black, blah, 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 because that's what the terms people understand. All right. Now, like myself, as mentioned, in India, right? I'm not from India, of course. I was born and raised in the UK, but we don't speak the same languages as every single person in India. There's many races within India alone. You got the real Elamites, okay, and then amongst them you got all their little sub tribes. Then you got Jake, which is a stronghold in northern India, all right, and that's where all the talent comes from in Bollywood, wrestling, sports. Even though it's not a humongous thing over there, because of people, a lot of people are poor. Esau has depleted that land, which was once a first world land many hundreds of years ago, right? But that's where the stronghold is, where the best warriors, fighters, the freedom fighters to free the country. When Esau was ruling it, those were many Jake that rose up. I know because I was raised in that culture, all right? And in the UK, we rode amongst ourselves. We never classify ourselves as Indians. And even before I knew I was an Israelite, I never rocked the Indian flag. I didn't like it. I don't like Hindus. I don't like dot heads. We always kept ourselves separate. We always called ourselves Punjabis, because that land, the land of the five rivers, Punjab, which means five rivers, right, has a lot of warriors, a lot of the equivalent of Romeos there, a lot of the greatest lovers, the greatest athletes, the greatest freedom fighters. So we got a lot to be proud of. We always kept ourselves separate. And ethnically, truth be told, we look better than the rest of the so-called East Indians. Even though, and a lot of us don't, can pass for other nations as well. We're a bigger people, I would say. All right. Whereas the rest of them, the rest of the rest of the real Elamites, they look like stereotypical Elam, even though you can't go just by the outside look. But as a collectively, right, we Jakes here, the Israelite foreigners, we look different to them. All right. And if, even if you look so-called Latino, but you're Punjabi, for example, right? And you walked up to a camp and they say, "Oh, where are you from, brother?" Or if they call you brother, "Oh, I'm a family from northern India." "Oh, you are an Elamite. You are not part of this, that, and the third." But you're being drawn in. You're being drawn in by the name of Yahweh Bashem Yashai. You feel a connection. Okay, pursuant to Romans 10 verse 2. Let's go to some scriptures now. Salakia for the waffling on. I've been waffling for 10 minutes. Um, sometimes I just I need to put the brakes on. Apologies for that. Romans 10 verse 2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of the Most High, but not according to knowledge. And that knowledge was taken away by the heathens. Psalms 83. All right. Psalms 83, where the heathen nations came together to cut us off from being a nation. Did they not? Did they not? All right. I mean, look what happened to the so-called black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man. You mentioned Israelites to them, and they think about the small hats. It doesn't even comprehend, it doesn't even come in their mind that the Most High Power and His Son are melanated beings, or melanated powers. All right. Daniel 7 verse 9 lets you know about how the Most High looks. Okay. The book of Revelation, I believe 14 verse 1 onwards, lets you know how Yahushua looks. All right. Actually, I said that. Let me just see if that's the right one I quoted. Revelation 14 verse 1. I just want to check. I'm not going to read it. I just want to check if that's the right one. I don't think. Was this the one? 1 second. Or was it Revelation 1 verse 1? That's the spirit, actually. 1 second. Let me go to Revelation. Is it Revelation 1 verse 1, I think? 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Yes, Revelation 1 verse 1. Salakia. It wasn't Revelation 14 verse 1. It was Revelation 1 verse 1. All right. It was Revelation 1 verse 1. Okay. Actually, since I'm here. All right. Revelation 14 verse 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. All right. Let me go to the one. Was this the one? No, that's not the one. I want to find the one with the mixed. I thought this was the one with the mixed multitude scripture. Where is it? Where is it? Revelation 7. No, that's not the one. All right, Revelation 7. I have to go there. 1 second. Revelation 7. Okay, here we are. Revelation 7 verse 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, palms in their hands. All right, who's that? Let's go to verse, that was 9, right? Let's go to verse 10. And cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our power, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Okay. And all the angels stood around about the throne and about the elders and the four beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshipped the Most High, saying, Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our power forever and ever. Amen. Okay, who's this? Mixed multitude or the great multitude? Okay, that's the elect. Okay, of all nations, Jacob is scattered everywhere. Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. All kinds of people or kindreds. All right, you know, a kindred would be like you got like Samoan Jakes, Israelite foreigners. You got Indian Jakes, Native Indians, the so-called black man. You got Hispanic Jakes. You got Italian Jakes. That will be all different types of Israelites scattered to the four corners of the earth. Okay, I'm saying in modern terms, and people and tongues. All right, okay. Some speaking Italian, some speaking Hindi, some speaking Punjabi, some speaking whatever Polynesian Jakes speak, some speaking Spanish. You know, I'm just saying, right? Some speaking Filipino languages or whatever language speak in the Philippines, right? Okay, some speaking English. Yeah, right. I'm just saying, different tongues, right? Stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes. The heathen's not going to be wearing white robes. Okay, these are the elect. All right. One second. All right, now here we go. I just read Revelation 7 and 9, the mixed, great multitude of all nations and kinds of people or kindreds and tongues, right? And here's, it says here in Revelation 7 verse 9, I typed in, is that the elect of God, right? That's to show in AI, right? Or AI mode on Google, right? It says here, yes, the people described in Revelation 7 verse 9 are considered the elect of the Most High. The elect simply means chosen ones. Yeah. All right. There you go. Okay. A mixed multitude. All right. And obviously in the kingdom, everyone's going to get the original look back, but the Lord is just specifying the fact that, you know, Jacob is going to come from everywhere. All right. You know, a lot of some of these camps still teach the same doctrine as before, you know, from like 35, 40 years ago. You know, they haven't really progressed or, you know, to the next level, you know, of teaching in the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Mashai. And I'm not disrespecting those prophets. I'm just saying that they need to, you know, look into, you know, they're not touching on the Israelite foreigner fact. And I've watched these guys okay. Yeah, I've watched some of these guys here and there, and I see the titles, and I watch it for a bit, then I jump out of it because I go, you know, this you don't really. It's the same doctrine that they had before, like back in the 90s. You know, I mean, and this is I've seen Zabak and other camps turn away a lot of Jakes from Nigeria and West Africa as well. You know, people that are interested, people that are sincere, people that have like a, you know, pursuant to Romans 10 verse 2, as we just read earlier, for I bear them record that they have a zeal of the Most High, but not according to knowledge. They have a connection to the Most High. The heathen Esau Edom is not going to have a connection to the Most High. They're just going to fight. They're either not going to be, they're not either not going to care, or they're going to be caring, but they're just wicked. They just want to hold on to the Edomite supremacy with regards to the images and the doctrine which they believe, which gives them more leverage upon the earth in terms of what they learned from the get-go, which if you know, their forefathers teaching lies, right? That's what they want to hold on to. Okay, but Jacob is going to be saying that, you know, we're all God's children. We all, you know, all that love, ish, you know. Well, that's Jacob's spirit, you know. Get along, you know. And whether this guy, right now, whether this guy's a Jake or not, is yet remains to be seen. Because if he is part of the elect, the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yashai will guide his steps, and you'll find the men of the Lord, the men of great millstone, right? If not, he's actually a heathen, then fair enough. But at the end of the day, you need to teach everyone. For what? Because you're meant to fish, aren't you? Right? And brothers and elders of great millstone, if you look at the camps, right, you got a diverse range of Israelites from all four corners of the earth. Some looks like so-called white guys, but they're actually Jake. You know, some look like East Indians, but they're actually Northern Kingdom. Some, you know, look like Ephraimites, but they're actually Judites. Some look like Judites, but they're actually Ephraimites. You know, Some have got straight hair with slick, this, the slick back look, you know, with high yellow skin tones. Some have light eyes. One of our elder bishops, Elder Bishop Manat Zakba, he's got light skin and bluey or gray eyes, right? You know, and someone are going to call him that. Oh yeah, he's not a pure blood or whatever. You know, you know. Shalom to Elder Bishop Manatizak. No, I did say Bishop Manatizak, right? Manatizak Bar is from the elder from South Carolina. I get confused sometimes. It's Elder Bishop Manatizak, okay, right? So you can't always go by the look, and and didn't um, didn't Isaac have Jacob and Esau? Isaac was a so-called black man, was he not? And Esau came out of his loins. And then we see that same, we see this replicating all the time where Israelites come out in various shades, sometimes high yellow, sometimes they come out with the yellow hair, they come out as clean lepers. All right. So you can't always go by the look. Color is an indicator, but it's not a definitive answer. That's why this is spiritual on this side, because we look like everybody on this side, okay? Because we're scattered to the four corners of the earth. All right. Let's go to the speckled bird scripture. 2-3 more scriptures and I'm going to finish up, Lord willing. Okay, Jeremiah 12 verse 9. Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. The birds round about are against her. Come ye assemble, all the beasts of the field, come to devour. Okay, the Lord's heritage is like a speckled bird. You look at a speckled bird. What is a speckled bird? Right, he has many different spots on it. He might have like high yellow spots. It might have brown spots. It might have so-called black spots. It might have, it might have pale pink spots. All right. All right. I mean, look at Cameron Diaz, for example. Her father's a so-called Mexican, but she acts like a ditzy white broad, right? Like a so-called Edomite. Because more than likely, you know how Jake is. Jake is out there earning the bread, and the mother's raising the daughter. And plus, Cameron Diaz coming out with blonde hair and blue eyes, she fits right in with her maternal side. They're not going to even question her. Nobody ever questions her about her Latino heritage, right? Because they just see her as a white woman. But her surname, it says it, Diaz or Diaz, right? Okay. We always use it. There's plenty of Jakes out there, right? You won't even know, they're Israelites. Actually, I'll show you a perfect example of a Benjaminite from a UK show. I'll show you an image right now. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second. Is it called This Is England, right? Who's playing a skinhead? The lead skinhead's name in the show This Is England. Now I'll show you his image as well. 1 second. Where is he? Yeah, Stephen Graham. That's it. There he is. I'll show you this guy, right? All right, here we are. Okay, now look at this guy. Look at this guy. See the guy here with the cross on his forehead? Right? This guy. When I first saw This Is England, right? This is reminding me of late 70s and early 80s skinheads. Because Jacob had to fight these MFers, right? This guy, his grandfather is a West Indian, a so-called black man. All right? Okay? But they used him to play a skinhead. Now, he's an Israelite foreigner that looks like a white guy or Edomite. He could be turned away by certain camps. Okay? Because this is spiritual. Yes, the so-called white man is a devil. And yes, most so-called white people are Edomites. But amongst them are Israelites. Does the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man or Israelite man deal with women of other nations? Yes or no? Yes. Bruce Lee is more than likely an Israelite. Okay? We look like everybody today. All right? Actually, let me get the information on Stephen Graham, actually. Stephen Graham. This Is England actor Stephen Graham. His grandfather is West Indian. His mixed race heritage. Okay, here we go. There he is. Stephen Graham is of mixed race heritage with his paternal, his father's side, because remember, you are whatever your father is. His grandfather married a so-called white woman. His father married a so-called white woman, so forth and so on. Okay? And then you look like that today, like a straight up honky. But that's a Jake. Stephen, okay, and he's the one who plays Al Capone as well. And it's quite spiritual because Al Capone more than likely a Jake. Okay, some people say that he could be pretending to be Italian, but he's probably Amalek. But nevertheless, they used him to play Al Capone in that show. Is it Peaky Blind? One of them shows, man. All right, I don't want to guess the name, and I don't want to look for it either right now because that's not important. But the fact that remains is that he's a Jake. Stephen Graham is of mixed race heritage, with his mixed race is what is a worldly term. Okay, you are wherever your father is. It don't matter about the mother, but you just end up looking different on the outside. Stephen Graham is of mixed race heritage with his paternal grandfather hailing from Jamaica, okay, and a paternal grandmother from Sweden, okay? All right? He has frequently spoken about his heritage, famously describing himself as mixed, just a mixed race kid from the block of flats, meaning the projects, in a place called Kirby during his acceptance speech, okay? His biological father is of dual Jamaican and Swedish descent. His biological father, right? Sorry. Okay, so his dad, all right, is of Jamaican and Swedish descent. So basically, his grandma is Swedish, and his father is Jake, Jamaican, right? His grandfather, all right, his paternal grandfather hailing from Jamaica. That's what counts. His paternal grandfather hailing from Jamaica. All right. Married a Swedish woman. Okay. Okay. He was raised by his mother and a mixed race stepfather who also has an African heritage. Graham credits his stepfather, Pops, with teaching him about his cultural history and helping him feel comfortable with his identity. Graham is light-skinned, but his brothers have much darker skin tones than him. There you go. There you go. All right. Playing a skinhead. Okay. There he is when he was younger. Darker skin tone, got lighter as he got older. You know, that's him. All right. And he more than likely married a so-called white woman. The other Israelites out there look like straight up honkies, but they're Jake. That's Benjamin there. See what I'm trying to say? You can't just go by the outside look. All right. Okay. Deuteronomy 28:64 lets you know that we're scattered to the four corners of the earth, not just in America and Latin America, but the bulk is in America and Latin America because it's ground zero Babylon. Right. Now let's go to Isaiah 11:11. You know, and Jake is always going to have a spirit. Okay. If you see a Moabite or East Indian rapping like Jay-Z, that you can't fake Jake, as Elder Malcolm of GMS Chicago would say. That's more than likely an Israelite. All right. And just like today, there are plenty of Jakes out there married to women of all nations. All right. There are Latino Jakes married to Israelite foreigner women from India. There are Latino Jakes married to Indian women. There are black men married to Indian women. There are black men married to Italian women that are actually Jake. And back in the ancient times, or many, many, many moons ago, the Moors conquered Italy, Sicily, southern Italy. Hence the reason why they're all dark toned. And sometimes some of them have them kinky hair, some of them have the straight hair, some of them have the blue eyes. Frank Sinatra more than likely a Jake. Example, his father's Sicilian, his mother's Northern Italian. That's why he looks like a straight up cracker with the blue eyes and the pale skin. Whereas most Italians kind of have that, that borderline passing, but you can tell there's something different about them. You know what I mean? If you watch the movie, The Untouchables, when Sean Connery, because Andy Garcia is playing an Italian in the movie, but he changed his name to become, to join the police force or whatever, because of the racism against Italians. Sean Connery was looking at Andy Garcia up and down. He goes, "What's your real name? You know, what's your real name?" Because he could suss it out that this guy isn't a so-called, what they call a so-called white guy, even though he's passing. You know what I mean? So some Italians you can tell, some Italians you can't tell. All right? But we are everywhere, and we're going to look like everybody. Okay? Isaiah 11:11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord Yahweh Shemashai shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. From everywhere. Elam is India, the islands of the sea, Italy and all that, and other parts. The Samoan Islands, the Philippines, New Zealand, Australia. All right, the whole world. All right, the second Exodus. Let's go to 12 as well. Isaiah 11 and 12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, shall assemble, excuse me, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Okay, we're scattered to the four corners of the earth. All right, four corners of the earth. So we're gonna look like everybody. Okay. There's one more scripture, and this is what our elders have been doing. Okay, the truth has been coming out. Before I got into the truth, I believe I started watching HOI and Great Millstone together, side by side. I was still watching Zabak. Zabak kept, saying East Indian this, East Indian that. I still kept watching because I knew in my mind, man, I ain't no freaking Hindu. Number one, I didn't grow up in Hinduism. Number two, I don't look like one of them, and I don't feel like one of them, and I don't connect with them. I don't eat their food. All right, Northern Indian food is completely different from that dot-head food, for real. Okay, we have a lot of flatbread, a lot of lamb, chicken. You know what I mean? It's more lentils, which is very similar to the biblical food mentioned, man. Lentils, chicken, pulses, flatbread, what you call roti, which a lot of West Indian Benjaminite brothers eat, okay. And, I was watching, going back to the point, I was watching Zabak, HOI, and Great Millstone at the same time. And I knew, man, and even in the world, before I knew I was a Jake, that I don't connect, I'm not Indian. We never called ourselves Indian, okay? Even Jakes, Israelite foreigners from Northern India don't call themselves Indian. They call themselves Punjabi all the way because they know they're different and want to differentiate themselves, okay? And we know that. We don't rock with anybody else anyway here in the UK. It's only Benji or maybe Judah from West Africa and Ghana and all that. That's who we wrote together with. Because we got, there's a spiritual commonality because we're the same people. All right? And I kept watching and watching and watching because the Lord was drawing me in. John 15 and 16. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you. All right? And the elders have been speaking the truth and talking about the Israelite foreigners, and it makes sense in my mind through the Spirit, and it's truth. And they've been fishing, and I've been hooked, through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yeshai, and Thwada Yahweh Bashem Yeshai for making me an Israelite, and my mashpaka Israelites, and me as an Israelite. Thwada Lord, Thwada Yahweh Bashem Yeshai. Jeremiah 16:16. Behold, I will send for many fishers. Okay, all right, and that's how our elders have been doing, fishing, and we've been watching and hooked through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yeshai. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yeshai, and they shall fish them, and after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. Those fishermen that are doing the work, like our frontline prophets, are going to turn into hunters very soon as well. Okay? Now, once again, I'm not disrespecting those prophets. They're doing the work, they're teaching, but they weren't touching on the Israelite foreigners. That's all it simply is, I wasn't going to make the video. I thought, okay, they're still teachers, is it my place to make it? But I'm just touching on the fact that the Israelite foreigner thing is very real, all right? And we are scattered to the four corners of the earth, and the scriptures don't lie. And the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yeshai, said, he's not a man that he should lie, all right? So Jake is scattered to the four corners of the earth. You can't go by the outside appearance. Yes, color is an indicator, but not a definitive answer, all right? That's why in these last days, you've got to be spiritual. You've got to be wary, circumspect, but be spiritual as well. All right? Okay, especially when it comes to teaching and who you're giving this truth for. Okay, which is to fish for the elect. Okay, and the elect are going to come out looking like everybody. All right? Okay, because as mentioned, Jake today, as we see videos all the time online, Jake is married to women of all nations, man. Of all nations. And in the ancient world, when we had power, you believe that we were plowing a whole bunch of fine women from all different nations. When we were in slavery, we were still doing the same thing because we are the superior man. And up until this day, we are still plowing women of other nations. Okay, and shit, man, other women of other nations look good, right? They look good, and it's lawful. All right, as long as a concubine is treated like a concubine or a wife, etc. You know how it is. You play the game, but the children are you. Numbers 118. You are whatever your father is. All right. But nevertheless, I'm gonna leave it there now. Israelites are scattered to the four corners of the earth, not just in America and Latin America. All right. All praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yashai, Bashem Rakakodash, Moath Bad Babal, Kwam Yashra Shalom.